Welcome back to more Powerboating in Paradise with members of the Florida Powerboat Club. 26 years now, and this club started right here in Miami. We're back with our signature Key West offshore poker run. This is Stu Jones, and we are featuring episode number 2 of what we expect to be about 8 episodes coming here to you on YouTube. And of course, a big thank you to our presenting sponsor, Mercury Racing, who has been a big supporter of the Florida Powerboat Club for many of those 25 years, and our new partner in the Project 1080 cigarette. Thanks to offleaseonly.com, another strong sponsor with the club, and the grand prize sponsor here for the Key West Poker Run, with a brand new Chevy Silverado pickup truck going to the winner. When we left off in our first episode, we were at Hullover Marine Center as we were departing on the Wednesday run. Remember now, altogether over 200 boats registered for this epic Key West poker run. The weather is fantastic. This is the Wednesday run, and these early birds are going to be in for a great surprise because the weather today is about as good as you're going to get it. A little bumpy offshore as we headed out through Hullover Inlet, riding with Rocco on the Midnight Express pace boat, and followed by the chopper back in through Government Cut. And we were in hot pursuit by our FPC aerial video team flying with coast-to-coast helicopters from Pompano Beach, Florida. We slowed things down as we stopped here at Grove Harbor Marina. Of course, it's another checkpoint and a starting point, a staging location for the poker run, as it has been for more than a decade. We've got about 15 or 20 boats here that have been waiting for our group to arrive, and of course, a big part of that festivity is the first poker run card. We call it the bonus card, and it is one of 2 bonus cards that the participants will pick up along the way, will be added to their hand in Key West when we play for the big hands on Saturday. Of course, lots of this. We've got Kayla and Marissa here handing off poker cards, and a drone up in the air catching all of the excitement as the boats pull up to this dock for what I believe is to be one of the best parts of the run, is getting your card. Special thanks to Miami-Dade Fire Rescue for providing us with a strong safety management program. Fire rescue medics on board the Fireboat 1 with their hoses actuated, and giving the girls here a lot of fun here as we get things kicked off. Of course, once we pick up the first poker card, it's time for a little bit of staging to get the boats in order and allow the 3 different speed groups to head out. And we got started off with the red sticker high performance boats. Todd Fountain led the way with a few other fast cats. It took us a while to catch up with them. The chopper was wide open throttle. When we left off on episode 1, we were chasing the boats down on Biscayne Bay. So the great news is, for this episode 2, we are going to be chasing down the entire fleet with a lot of high-speed action, starting with Lauren Peters from Missouri in this 40-foot MTI powered by Mercury Racing 1350s. That's a lot of horsepower added up, 2,700 horsepower, 4 turbochargers, and a very, very fast catamaran. And on these Mercury Racing 1350s quad cams, that makes 64 valves all in unison right now. Helicopter's doing everything it can to keep up right now. We had a funny little spot in the last episode where the photographers were trying to get the pilot to fly faster. He's already over 100 knots. The doors are off, and he's doing everything he can to stay up here with Todd Fountain on this very fast Tomcat. And of course, you're going to see a lot of cats in this front-running group. This is a 34 MTI. Not going to get a lot of time on the chopper with this guy. There's no decal displayed, so we cannot identify the boat. So we're just going to move on. Bo and Tiffany Renfro back again. This is a 36 Skater, a boat that they have been loving. I think they got it about 3 years ago. I remember seeing it at the Emerald Coast Poker Run. They are part of our neighbors to the north from Georgia, spend a lot of time boating up in the Lake Lanier area near Atlanta, but they also are our local neighbors because they recently purchased a home in Pompano Beach, and they just live a few blocks away from Jackie and I. Now it's time to take a close listen to the power of these big V8s. And if it's not a skater, it's probably one of these guys. That's right, it's a 48-foot MTI. Fred and Judy Rivas from South Carolina, who also have a home in Florida. Blue Bayou 3, a 48 MTI powered by Mercury Racing 1350s. And I believe it's probably Fred's 3rd MTI since he joined the club many, many years ago. And of course, he's got number 4 here on the run. Also, of course, he can't drive two boats, so he's got his friend Sean driving that 42. It's a SV42 center console. So look for another matching boat. We're going to see it later in the show. Good to have Fred and Judy here, longtime members with the club.
There's no need to turn to simplify. Happiness is never found among the ashes of two hearts.
And a very, very special welcome to Al and Christy Newell from Kentucky. Back again after a long absence. Started off joining us in Key West back as far as 1997, again in 04, but a different boat now, this 38-foot Donzi, which is an 06 model. Al tells me in his video bio that he stripped this baby down and completely redid it, just like the Project 1080. Now he's got himself one fast, great running Donzi, and plenty of room to bring all his friends. Signed up 12 people altogether with his team. Told all his friends he was going to give them a first-class Key West experience, and that's exactly what he did. Well, as we get a crew close-up here, looks like maybe one of the ladies made it on the boat. Mostly the husbands made this ride down. All I can say to all those wives who probably drove down is, you girls missed a fantastic ride. By the way, congratulations to Al. 1,100 miles he trailered this baby all the way from Kentucky. And it looks like the chopper has circled back here to pick up again some of our front runners. I believe that's Bo and Tiffany Renfro again in that 368 Skater. But it does give us a shot here that really kind of tells you what the conditions are like and how great they are. You guys with these fast cats, you know these are the kind of conditions that you love to run in. Biscayne Bay is giving us those perfect conditions today. Looks like somebody stopped with the hatches up. I hope it's not serious. It looks like it's Chris Bradley because that's Dad's Nortec alongside. So that's good, Chris. You got Pops as your support boat. I think it was just a minor issue because I saw him running just fine a little later on. Now let's welcome back to the 2018 edition of Key West, Jim Schultz and his team at Factory Billet, who are making this their second year in a row. But of course, Jim goes back many years, more than a decade, with Florida Powerboat Club when he first had a 47 GTX, very similar looking to this 52 that he has now. But the other big difference with this 52 is that it's running on these new Factory Billet 1950 horsepower V8s that are some serious engines. Jim's own team developed these, and what's unique about them is that they are a flex fuel motor, both of them, twin turbocharged. But I went on their website, and what I read was kind of intriguing. It says start the day off with 93 octane pump fuel, and when you're ready for more power, just top off the tank with E85 E90, and Factory Billet's ECU will self-calibrate to get the most out of the engine. And we're talking horsepower here close to 2,000 horsepower aside, so you can imagine with close to 4,000 horsepower what it will do with this already very fast Outer Limits hull. So that's what they're doing, and they like to think that it's a very simple operation because there's no draining of tanks, there's no switches that you need. You just basically mix the fuel, the ECU does the job for you. You sit back, you hang on, and you enjoy. And I think that Jim and his crew understand in creating something like this that that's what poker runs are all about. You want poker runs to be trouble-free. You know, it's not boat racing. You want to have the performance when you need it on tap, but you don't need to have it all the time. So I think it's a great option, and for you guys that are looking for some serious high performance, of course, Factory Billet is one of your choices. And thanks, guys, once again for joining us here in Key West.
This is incredible stuff.
And now, continuing with our introductions, looks like we're catching up with some performance class boats. Of course, that's Yellow Sticker running about 80 miles per hour. Frank Sr. and Frank Jr. Janucci from New Jersey running their 39-foot cigarette Top Gun powered by Mercury Racing 700s. It's an 09 model and really a great poker run package overall. Step bottom, lots of horsepower. This boat's going to run well over 100 miles per hour. What they liked about attending the poker run, which by the way is their third time here on Key West, They said in their video bio that it was very well organized and put together. And we also asked them what they think is unique about their boat. Well, apparently they don't think it's unique enough, because Frank tells me that they're going to have a whole new look and a lot more power on next year's Key West run. So that's 2019. Let's keep our eye open for these guys. Honestly, guys, I like it the way it is. Remember, I just built my boat and it looks a lot like this. So it's right down my alley. But I know what it's like. After you have a boat for a little while, you want to make some changes. Anyway, thanks for making it here, guys. A long way from home, 1,200 miles they trailered all the way from New Jersey.
That's it, buddy, right there. A little closer, a little closer.
And joining the guys here in the helicopter as they close in on this 42-foot fountain, Marcus and Danielle San Giuliano. Hope I said that right, guys, all the way from New Jersey. Good to have you here on the Key West Poker Run. A 2008 42 fountain, Executioner model, Merc 525 EFIs, and love the sound of this boat. It's amazing that these EFI motors sound so good. And that makes perfect sense, because Marcus says in his video bio that one of his favorite things about powerboating is the noise. So obviously he loves the sound of those motors as much as we do. And a shout out to the crew on board, Bill, Del, Angela, and Danielle riding along today. And all the way from Oklahoma, let's welcome back Dustin Zumo with this 04 cigarette Top Gun. It's a 38 Top Gun twin step with Mercury Racing 525s. Second time here with this boat. Dustin, thanks for making the trek back. It's a long ways. You mentioned in your video bio that you had it transported all the way from Lotto. A smart move. You get off the plane in Miami, you go straight to the captain's meeting, you get your goodie bag, you sleep overnight in the hotel, and within 24 hours you're in the boat having fun. That's the way to do it. And let's say hi one more time to Karsten and Team Germany in their Nortec 3600 Supercat. Came all the way over from Germany to attend this event. Not a lot of footage here in this segment, but we did see them in the previous episode getting their poker card. Congratulations, guys, for coming so far to represent your country and to have a good time here on the Key West Run.
So you can get them before the bridge.
Okay. No, we don't get him.
Oh, come on, Michael. We're just about adventure.
All right, yeah. Go wide so I can get him under the bridge.
And it's always great to get that play-by-play from the cockpit of the helicopter as we now chase down Kelly and Anna Crace from Arizona in this Skater 368 2009 model with some big Pete Fleming motors, 1,500 horsepower aside, some big PSI superchargers. That's got to be one serious ride. But it looks like they're having to slow things down just a little bit here at Barn Sound as they cross through the Card Sound Bridge. We're going to see a lot more of this skater and hear more about their crew in a next episode with more coverage of this Wednesday run down to the Florida Keys. Looks like everyone's just kind of chilling out here right now, maybe waiting for the pack or maybe getting their bearings as they need a heading to get over across Barn Sound. The next little Jewfish Creek waterway is a little bit hard to find. You need to dial it in on your GPS and make sure you're on the right heading as we cross over these bay waters into Key Largo.
Where? There he is. Okay.
We're going to have some great scenery shots here now as we get down into what I think is one of the really beautiful parts of the Keys. This is when you really know that you've arrived in the Florida Keys. Right about at the Card Sound Bridge, you make the bend into the bay waters and you can see the change in the color. I think that was our U.S. Coast Guard checking in on us, making sure we're okay. But that's when you can really start to, have the appreciation that you are in the Florida Keys. And the conditions have just continued to really be perfect. One thing I like about this shot is that you can see that everyone's just kind of gotten in their groove and they're just happy with the speed that they're at. Nobody's trying to break any speed records. I think that a lot of the boats here are just cruising at maybe 65, 70, 75. What's right for their class, like that center console, the Nortec's probably running about 65. A lot of the cats are running, 85, 90, possibly 100. But these conditions are going to allow every boat to find its sweet spot, just lock it in, and you don't even have to touch the throttles for several minutes at a time. And for those who are checking, it's about a 45-mile ride from Grove Harbor to right here at Jewfish Creek as we pull back on the throttles and slow things down. We're about to arrive at Gilbert's for our lunch stop today. It's late in the morning. We got plenty of daylight ahead. there's still a lot of boats back out here in the open bay waters. You know, I intentionally took advantage of this opportunity. I knew that the helicopter was still up, and of course I carry a helicopter radio with me. I'm riding with Ryan Charnosky on his Midnight Express 37. It's powered by quad Mercury 400 Verados. I've been on this boat before, and Ryan was gracious to welcome myself and the FPC Girls on board. He's got his buddies riding along with him. Wife Julie is, I think she's already in Key West waiting for him. But this was just a great opportunity for us to get a ride on this brand new Midnight Express. Came with us to the Bahamas earlier this year, but I never really got a chance to ride on the boat, and it really was a great center console to spend our day heading down to Key West, and I want to thank Ryan for welcoming us on board. But the best part of it was getting the helicopter to chase us down. We kind of just waited out in the bay until the chopper circled back, and I said, hey guys, I'm on a sponsor boat. Let's get some good video time. And of course the ladies got themselves in position. That's Kayla on the right and Marissa on the left. And for those of you who pay attention to this stuff, which is I think most of you guys, obviously these two had just handed out the poker cards earlier in the day. They were featured in our last episode when we had that big long card exchange at Grove Harbor Marina. Doing some pretty ace flying here with Florida coast to coast helicopters to get these money shots. And I know that I probably should be sharing some of these shots with Eric and Harris over at Midnight Express, because they love getting these pictures of their new models, and I know that they like getting them, especially when they got some pretty bikinis up front. So we need to get these photos on the Midnight Express Instagram page, which I believe now is at about 150,000 followers. Not bad. I think one of the best followings of any powerboat brand that I know of. And getting these kind of shots is the reason that they get such a good following. But as you can see, it's a beautiful day as we cruise across Barnes Sound. Just talk a little bit about the geography today. Remember, we're at about, maybe the 50-mile mark, roughly, as we approach Jewfish Creek here in Key Largo. And we've still got 110 miles to go. We're going to break it up into another 2 legs. The second leg after lunch going down to Marathon. It's a great location to stop and just kind of walk around, get some more fuel for that final leg into Key West if you need it. Of course, a lot of these center consoles are fully equipped with big tanks, and they're going to make it pretty much all the way to Key West on the fuel that they have on reserve. It doesn't get much better than this, guys. In the middle of November, when the rest of the country is already starting to get sub-freezing temperatures and maybe even some snow, and here we are in mid-November enjoying powerboating in paradise in the Florida Keys. You wonder why I kept this job for 27 years? Well, here you go. This is the living proof right here.
Please don't let it show. Oh, baby, I don't wanna know.
And we close off here with the money shot arriving here in Jewfish Creek. I think everyone would agree that getting a picture of your boat going through these mangrove waterways is one of those things that I think is just very memorable. It's a great souvenir photo to have for everybody. And if you don't have a picture of this for your boat, talk to me on your next poker run and we'll make sure you get one.
Go to the bridge and get us high, like at least 750 or so.
Let's talk a little bit about the lunch stop and how we organize things here at Gilbert's Resort, who, by the way, have been serving us here with the Florida Powerboat Club for probably close to 20 years. Way back in the earlier days, the place was kind of a dump. We didn't want to go there. It was full of derelict boats, and it wasn't really a very pleasant place to visit back in the early 90s. But we met the former owners at the time. It was Reinhardt, and he was willing to spend some money and fix the place up a little bit and clean out all the derelict boats. And from that point on, it's really been a love affair, honestly. I mean, we've had a great relationship with these people. Obviously, new owners now. The Reinhardt shop family moved on, and a more local family took over a few years back, about 5-6 years ago. And I think they've done a wonderful job of managing the property and keeping all of us happy here with the Florida Powerboat Club. And this is a great segment here because we've got both a helicopter and a drone flying, and a lot of coverage of this whole staging operation of the boats arriving here at Gilbert's, which, by the way, has pretty much had most of its docks, or at least 80% of its docks, completely rebuilt since Hurricane Irma even prior to Irma, they were going to be under construction, but they had to pretty much close off the construction. And so they've been for about 18 months without docks here at Gilbert's, and this is exciting to see them. They were just completed a little while before the Key West Poker Run, so this gave us an opportunity to start bringing the group back here, and they were truly ready for us in so many ways. I do want to thank you guys. I was watching this video, and I couldn't help but think that everyone really took their time to do it right. And one of the things that somebody did, which was cool, was they turned the boats into the current. There's not a lot of current there all the time, but when there is, you really got to turn your nose into the current. And if you look really closely at some of the boats, you can see the current passing, past the bow. So you need to have that nose of the boat into the current, because you're rafting up 6, 7, 8 boats wide, and it puts a ton of strain on the dock if that current is pushing on transoms. But I think it's an important subject that can be dealt with here in a very soft and friendly way, because it's extremely excruciating and not a lot of fun to be screwing around at the dock and yelling at people that aren't doing things right. But you notice how this boat is coming in very, very slowly, very, very carefully. Sadly, nobody stayed on that fountain to bring this MTI in. That's another thing, guys. You as long as you can keep your eye on the boats, it doesn't take long for a couple of people to see this MTI coming in and say, run down the dock and catch his boat and catch his lines, because they don't have a dock staff here that will do anything to help us. They pretty much let us do our own thing here, and I think it's important that we help each other out as much as possible. Marissa here having a great day as she continues to hand out the poker cards. So it's out here with the boats for a couple minutes and back inside with the Poker Run girls for another minute or two. But you can see the dock is starting to take shape here. And once again, speaking of taking shape, I like the way my editor moved things around here to keep me completely off guard. Now, what I wouldn't want to do is take this big 41-foot cigarette and go ahead and try to tie it up now to this MTI. That's how we don't do things, guys. Look ahead as you see all this empty space. You got these rows where there's only 2 boats, maybe 2, 3 boats, another 2 boats. That cigarette should never have gone anywhere near that row. They were going 7 wide. It's a big, heavy 13,000, 14,000 pound cigarette. Should be going in on one of the rows that are down to 2 boats or 3 boats. We'd like to stack them up and keep the rows equal along the way. When you start stacking up 7 or 8 deep, when you've got several rows that are only 2 deep, it just doesn't make sense, guys. That's not how we do things. It's not safe. It's unorganized. And it's really hard on the docks. It's hard on the other boats, especially the inside boats that are getting all that strain of that big raft and all of the boats that are tied up to it. So, understand that the 2 cleats on the outside, starboard cleats of that blue boat that's in there is taking the weight of that big 52-foot Nortec, and then that skater, and then that Nortec, and then the fountain, and then the other fountain, and now this MTI. So, there's only one way to do things, guys, and that's the right way. And stacking the boats up more than 6 deep here at Gilbert's isn't really necessary, because you've got an over 500 feet of good dock. And if you space the boats out properly, tie them up properly, and put the size boats together that are similar in size, you don't want to put a 50-foot cat alongside a 35-foot fountain. You want to put that big 50 cat alongside a 48 MTI or maybe a 46 skater. You want to try to keep similar boats together. Back to the waterways and back to the run today. As you can see, the conditions are continuing to be absolutely beautiful on this November day. And this is the kind of weather that is really perfect for boating, because there's very low humidity. The temperatures are in the high 70s, low 80s, and I think it doesn't get much better than this. Back inside Gilbert's in this giant tiki bar. I remember when they built this about 8 or 10 years ago. It was an amazing feat. I think it's one of the largest tikis in the Florida Keys, anywhere all the way to Key West. So always a nice place to visit. Kayla and Marissa posing for some pictures, and it looks like they've done a pretty good job of getting all of the bonus cards handed out. Remember, 2 bonus cards handed out on today's run, and that's it. You put them away, and you leave them put away all the way until Saturday when you regather back at the Poker Run Party in Key West and play out your final hand. There's a beautiful shot with the drone of just what a great job you guys did of tying up And I think Wednesday looked pretty darn good. It takes a little time to do it right, guys. But for the most part, you guys did it right. And it makes for a good stack of boats. It makes for easy arrival and easy departure, and very minimal damage, or if any, really. I don't think anyone had any damage at all. Of course, Thursday, that's another story. That's an episode in the future. It didn't work out so well, but that's something that we need to talk about, because good docking etiquette is really what this is all about. Continuing on now today, let's remind you, it's about 110 miles now from where we are here at Gilbert. So while we like to keep the flow casual, we also need to keep the pace, and that includes the functions. So I believe that we had the lunch starting somewhere, just before 12 noon, and if I can recall, I think we had departure scheduled for about 1:30. If we can have lunch and all get finished lunch and be getting on the boats before 1:30, that's a perfect window, because it gives you at least another 3.5 to 4 hours of good daylight to get to Key West, and that's really plenty. But if you start hanging around in Key Largo at Gilbert's till 2 or 2:30, it could present some challenges to you, later in the day. Remember, it gets dark by about 5:30 here in November. Daylight savings time has already changed. We've gone fall back, and a week earlier. So you need to just manage your day very well and plan on being in Key West between 4 o'clock and 4:30, and you're going to be perfect. For those who still need fuel, Marathon is going to be our next fuel stop, and you need to account for a little bit of time there, because it can get a little crowded at the pumps in Marathon, especially if you need high-performance fuel. That looks like Jeff Kramer and his crew on their 38-foot fountain, and we saw a lot of this boat in the previous episode of the show, and we want to thank the Kramers and all their crew for coming back again to join us this year. Chris and Jennifer Grant from Canada, another fountain team, a long way from home, Ontario, Canada, and veterans here on this Key West poker run. I want to say it's their third or fourth time at least. Mike DeLapo there on the side of the boat. Another one of my Canadian friends I've known for a long, long time, more than 10 years. And it's good to see the energy and the spirit these guys have to haul their equipment more than 1,500 miles one way, just to come down and join us in November for this poker run. And everyone is just slowly breaking away from the pack and making this 180-degree turn to head south. And we're not going to get up on plane right away. We're going to kind of mill around on the south side of Gilbert's. Matt and Mary Sue Miglianzo from Kansas in this Donzi 38ZX, a very popular model back in the 90s. I recall it very, very well. We had a few of these in the club. And I recall seeing a lot of this boat in the previous episode. The one thing that stands out in my mind when I see this boat is what Matt said, is that, it's a perfect boat for me and for my crew. He likes to have a lot of friends on board. They like to have that big cabin down below. It works well. Step bottom, runs on these 500 EFIs. So like I said in the last show, guys, sometimes it's cheaper to keep her. Keep the old boat, keep it well tuned, keep it well serviced. If you have to repower it like I did with my 38 cigarette. But if you like the hull, keep it, because they're not making a lot of these anymore. In fact, they're not making this model for Donzi at all. And there's a certain era back in the 90s and the early 2000s where they built some really cool boats. Donzi did, certainly Nortec did, a lot of the V-bottom manufacturers did, and they're not going to build these boats anymore. So if you love them, keep them, and do what you got to do to get them tuned and repowered, and you'll be doing poker runs for many, many years to come. And you're going to have something that you love and that is truly unique and suits your boating lifestyle just perfectly. And I just love the shots that this drone is getting. Sorry, we're not getting any audio because the drone doesn't carry a microphone, but it certainly gives us this vantage point as we close in closely here on Tom and Stacy Durner in their 39-foot Outer Limits Quattro, as well as these other boats all just kind of lining up. And, I love a shot like this, because look at them all. You got at least 8-9 people. This team from Minnesota, it's their first time here on the Key West Poker Run. Tom said in his video bio that it was on his bucket list to attend the Key West Poker Run, as it has been for many people. And we're glad that you could check off that box, Tom, and say that you did it. Let's talk a little bit about his boat. It's an 04 39 Quattro. So let's back up a little bit, guys. '04, so this is a, almost 15-year-old boat. I think that's pretty amazing. And what's unique about it, as Tom reminded me, is that's the only 39 Quattro that was built with 3 motors, which currently are 3 Mercury Racing 525s. So that's another thing that's unique. You don't see that anymore. Triple stern drives, triple engines in a a V bottom, a stern drive V bottom with triples. It just isn't done anymore. Period. So that's what's unique about that era. 15 years ago, and some of the things that Outer Limits was doing at that time. But they really enjoy this poker run. They said that they had a blast. Their favorite thing about powerboating, Tom says, is speed, sound, and meeting new people. And speaking of people, this is a big crew they brought along board. I wanted to mention that Damien, Jamie, Joel, Jenny, Jeremy, Tracy, Tom, and Stacy on board today. So thanks for making it, guys. And another close-up here of Dustin Zumo from Oklahoma. This 38-foot cigarette, Mercury Racing 525s. And again, an 04 hull step bottom, a great poker run boat. Doesn't cost a lot to run this boat. And, I think, guys, if you have one of these, hang on to it, because they're not building a lot of these anymore. And that's why I got mine, and I'm enjoying it as well. So nice to see a good turnout from Cigarette, by the way. For those who are curious about the statistics, Cigarette placed as the number 2 manufacturer. Altogether, about 22 cigarettes attended, or 24, I think it was. Of course, Nortec won that award later in the show with 32 registered Nortecs on this event. So for those of you who are watching for the first time and thinking of maybe doing this event, at this point, everyone is just kind of taking their time and chilling out to depart and head southbound into Blackwater Sound as we catch up with Fred and Judy on the big MTI. But this is a time to really get the boat ready for a very long leg, which could be for some at least 60 miles, at least a minimum of 60 miles to Marathon. And for those who are continuing all the way, it's going to be a 110-mile leg. So this is an important time to really check your equipment over, make sure your fuel situation is good, make sure that you have got all your safety gear in place. You're going to be wearing your life jackets, your PFDs for the rest of the way, and just get everybody tuned in and ready for the ride, because it's going to be a long one. Kelly and Anna Crace again with this 368 Skater. Again, a very, very good turnout from Skater overall. They themselves, I think, had about 23 or 24 boats. And a lot of fountains here too. Marcus and Danielle, once again, we saw them earlier in this 42 fountain with Mercury Racing 525s. An Executioner model. Don't see a lot of those. Most of the time, it's Lightnings. Of course, the Big Mac Daddy, this big 52-foot Nortec Roadster, Don and Alice Lightfoot from Texas. Don's had the boat 2 or 3 years and just recently repowered to 1550s. And again, another boat with big power, Chris and Angela Bradley, this 38 Skater, got Goodwin 2000s, both sides. They stopped earlier. We saw them earlier in the show, and Dad was parked alongside. Here he is now, Jim Bradley in the Nortec. I guess they had a small problem. They seem to be fine now. We're going to start wrapping things up here now of this episode 2 as we cut loose from these guys who are going to now head on the next leg. There's Michael Maggio in his 46 Cigarette, Patty Sullivan in his Donzi center console. They are up on plane and heading from Key Largo now through the scenic Florida Keys for this next leg through to Marathon and continuing on to Key West. So this is an appropriate time to say farewell to this Wednesday group. And when we return in episode 3, we'll have continuing coverage of the Wednesday departure group on this signature 26th annual Key West Offshore Poker Run. This is Stu Jones. Thanks for watching as we continue to deliver about 8 or possibly 9 episodes with highlights of the annual Key West Offshore Poker Run featuring the members of the Florida Powerboat Club. This event is presented by Mercury Racing with grand prize sponsor Off Lease Only. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.